There we go. So good morning, everyone. My name is Jesse, and I'm here with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those who don't know, we're all about sharing conservation, adventure, and science with kids around the world. I'm really excited to say that today is our first ever entire month celebrating women in science in commemoration of mid-February with its International Day for Women in Science. We've got over 35 hangouts. It's awesome. And today we are kicking off with Dr. Trena Ferrell, who I will introduce in just a moment. First, though, I'll go through our classes. We've got 5 classes from across Ontario, actually. Today it's an entire Ontario contingent. So we've got Mrs. Murakis, grade 6s from Thunder Bay. Hi, guys.
Hi.
We've got Eve's class in the Island School, 5-6s in Toronto. They're coming in. We've got a ceiling in that class so far. The class will be here soon. We've got Mr. Atkinson's grade 6s from Barrie, Ontario. Awesome. We've got Mr. Blake's grade 6s from Brampton, Ontario. Hi, guys. And we've got Mrs. Goodman, 6-7s from Uxbridge, Ontario. Awesome. All right. Of course, the reason you guys are all here today is for our speaker. We are joined live by Dr. Trena Ferrell. She is from NASA's Earth Science Division at their Goddard Space Flight Center, which is one of the coolest jobs in the world. She's their education and public outreach lead, which means she gets to share really neat knowledge of what the space program is doing every day of her life, which is just the best. So I think you're a perfect person to kick off our Women in Science Month. And without further ado, thank you so much for joining us, and take it away.
Yeah, good morning, you guys. I am so sorry for the technical difficulties. So how's everybody doing?
Good. We mute them throughout, so you can, if you want to ask questions, I can demute them, but throughout they're usually muted, otherwise they're too loud. They'll drown you out.
Yeah, what a crazy morning. We actually have ice here this morning, so things are delayed. So even our schools are like 2-hour delayed today. And then I am so tired. Why? Because I'm not sure if you guys watched the Super Bowl, but my Eagles won. I actually grew up outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So I am so excited the Eagles won last night. So, well, I'm excited to talk with you guys. So I feel like I'm at home. And why am I saying that? Because I'm actually a former teacher. So you know how your parents and guardians always say first impressions are really important? Well, they really are. Because for me, I actually started out in the classroom. I actually taught high school chemistry and biology. And then I started working. I got a job for Maya Angelou, the poet. She has a school in Washington, D.C. I taught there. So when I was teaching there, I invited NASA to come in and talk to my students. And this nice lady from NASA came and we exchanged, she did her presentation. We exchanged phone numbers and business cards, all that stuff. 2 years later, she called me and said she was leaving her job and I should interview for her job. I interviewed for her job and I got her job. So that's how I got my foot into NASA. So it's the coolest job ever that I have. I get to do a lot of educational outreach events with students like yourselves across the country. I have a team of earth scientists, and we want the world to know of all the great work that we do. So it's an amazing job. And at NASA, I've actually been lucky. I've had, it allows you to move around jobs. So I actually worked in the Office of Education for several years. Then I went to the Office of Communications, where we had a big open house in 2015, and we had over 20,000 people come. And I actually was the co-planner for that event. Me and Dina planned that event. So it was pretty amazing. And now I'm in earth science. So it's pretty cool. So like I said, I'm actually a former classroom teacher. And I also have my PhD. My PhD is in environmental science. So that's a little about myself. I'm not sure if you guys have any questions about NASA or anything. Let me know. I can try to answer them.
Certainly. Do you want to go to questions right now, or do you want to explain a little bit more about, I don't know, what exactly your job entails on a day-by-day basis?
Okay. Right. So no 2 days are actually the same. No 2 days are ever the same, which is kind of cool. Because in my prior life, I thought I wanted to be an MD. So I actually started medical school. And it wasn't a perfect fit because this time of year now, I'd probably be giving a lot of flu medication out with the flu, the way it's behaving these days. But I feel like with my job now, no 2 days are ever the same. So I get to do a lot of outreach events. So I will go to schools and talk to students like yourselves. A lot of times we do go face-to-face. I'll be at face-to-face events. But we also do a lot of webinars. That's why I had to back up Zoom in case this didn't work. I had the Zoom account. We also plan big events for Earth Science. So we're getting ready here in the United States, what's coming up is that we've got a big Earth science event where we invite over 300 kids to come to Union Station, which is in Washington, D.C., and they actually come and learn about what our Earth scientists do. They actually get to meet an astronaut, and they get to listen to some presentations. That's one thing we've got coming on up. Also, we've got coming up is a USA Science and Engineering Festival. So that's going to be in Washington, D.C. this year, and that's coming up in April. So that's a big event. We have tons of people come. Last weekend was kind of cool. So last weekend, NASA's got some amazing Earth science images. So if you watch the news or something, a lot of times those images actually come from Goddard, and you'll see them if you want to. They'll have a pictorial image of a tsunami or a pictorial image of the sea currents, things like that. Because a lot of our satellites, that's what we show pictures of them and images. Well, they actually come from NASA Goddard. So NASA Goddard actually worked with the Philharmonic Orchestra, and so last week actually. We had our images on the screen, and they actually played to the images. So it was kind of cool. And I actually got to talk to over 4,000 people. They were sold out both nights. So I have an amazing job. I actually love coming to work. It is absolutely amazing. So let me tell you a little about Goddard Space Flight Center. So to me, it's one of the coolest NASA centers that there is, that we have. We've got several of them. I'm sure you guys are kind of familiar with Kennedy Space Flight Center in Florida. That's where we launch our shuttles. You guys are probably familiar with Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. That's where astronauts train. Those are probably the big ones you're probably familiar with. But I feel like we're a diamond in the rough. Goddard does Earth and space science. And we actually hire the most people out of anywhere in the country with PhDs in Earth and space science. We also do a lot of engineering here. So it's an amazing center. And there's about 10,000 people that come through the gates daily. So I always say I can't seem to hit the lottery, but I kind of did. Out of the 10,000 people, I actually met my husband here. Who would ever think that? So I actually met him at the visitor center. So that's kind of cool. So he is actually an aerospace engineer. So, which is so funny because I feel like engineers think differently than scientists. So we have that debate all the time. But his job is kind of cool too because he's an aerospace engineer by day, and then at night he's kind of got a cool job. Well, I should say sometimes it's cool. It's not cool all the time. So his job at night is that he's a professional DJ. So he travels the country. And he opens with people like Jay-Z, Beyonce. He did Super Bowl events a couple years ago. It was funny. On Saturday night, the phone rang at like 11:30. And they actually asked him to do a Super Bowl event for next year's Super Bowl, which is going to be in Atlanta. We'll be doing an event for that. So it's kind of cool. So NASA allows him the flexibility to have his day job and then to have his evening passion. So that's kind of cool.
Now, one of the questions we get a lot from kids is, so if these kids are all in grade 6 and 7 and they're starting now, they're interested in science and math, how do they end up doing the sort of thing that you're doing now?
Great questions. So I think that you guys have probably heard this word ad nauseum, STEM, or I like to say the word STEAM. So that's science, technology, engineering, arts. I think the arts is very important, and math. And so I think that you need to take classes in those fields. I think that's very, very important. And also another thing that's really important, I have to say, with being a scientist is communication. Can I tell you how much I talk with other people on a daily basis? So I think that that's very, very important. So I think if you do those things, take those STEAM courses and have good communication skills, that's speaking and writing, I think you're in good shape.
Now, how do you end up as a NASA/DJ? Like, is there a plan for that too? Because that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. So he actually just always enjoyed, he said he has the best of both worlds. So if you guys have ever seen that old experiment that's got the metal shavings or filings, and then it's got the magnet underneath. So he was always intrigued by that. So now he's the electromagnetic engineer. He works for electromagnetic engineering branch. So he's got the best of both worlds. And he's always had a passion for music. And so he has combined those two passions. And now he's got the best of both worlds.
Now, you really quickly, we'll get to student questions in just a second, but you mentioned this idea of a symphonic orchestra with all these amazing pictures. Is that online anywhere? Could we share that?
It is not, unfortunately. We were asking about that. It is not online, unfortunately.
Oh, well.
If you go to SVS, Science Visualization Studio, if you Google that, you can see a lot of our amazing images that we have.
All right. Well, you know what? One of the best parts about this whole thing is jumping into questions, and people can ask anything they want about NASA to you, so let's do that. We will start with Mrs. Murakis' class. If you guys have a question, come on up.
We're going live. Okay, go ahead.
Hi. I love your pink sweatshirt. Pink is my favorite color. I love it.
So my name's Catherine, and I was wondering, why did you want to become a NASA person? Like, why did you make the change from being a teacher to NASA?
I love that. It's a good question. Well, I've always had a fascination with space. And my father, when I was young, I'm not sure if you guys heard of Star Trek. So I used to always watch Star Trek with my dad. My dad knows every episode of Star Trek. He can tell you the words that are being spoken, everything. So he knows Star Trek like the back of his hands. So I used to watch Star Trek with him. So I always thought, I was like, wow, I want to be, someday I hope to be part of the space program. And it worked out. So I got my dream. So it's cool. And NASA being one of the premier space agencies, I'm actually honored to work for them. Good
Cool.
question.
All right, let's go to Mrs. Hop or Eve's class in Toronto.
It's our class who's speaking.
Hi.
You have a question for her? Does anybody have a question? Okay, Aya, come up to the front. Hold on a second. Aya's coming. I'm ready.
Go
Go ahead.
How long have you been studying space?
Great. How long have I been studying it? So I actually have been studying for a while. Like I said, I've been working at NASA for over 17 years. So at least for the last 17 years. And then, when I was in high school and college, we had to take Earth and space science. And now I'm more on the Earth space science, which I'm really excited about. And here in Maryland, for example, in order to graduate from high school, everybody needs to take an environmental science class in order to graduate. So I'm so excited that they've changed some of the educational standards to actually include facets of Earth science.
So for the teachers in Ontario, tell your curriculum leaders to add that too, because we need Earth and environmental science here in Ontario. All right, let's do Mr. Atkinson's class. Do you guys have a question? Come on up.
How important are things they do to study climate change?
What are things? Okay, great question. Hi. So we've got some amazing satellites out there that are taking amazing images and stuff like that, give us data. So if you guys, we've got some that are going to launch, ISAT-2, which is an Earth science satellite, is going to launch shortly. We've got GPM, which is already up there, Global Precipitation Measurement. So these satellites actually help us. They give us data, and we can analyze the data and figure out what's going on. So our satellites are very, very important.
How many satellites do we have total?
There's over 30, at least in the yeah.
Excellent. All right, let's go to Mr. Blaise class.
Are there any new rovers that you will be sending up soon?
Good question. None that I know of. We've got We've got Curiosity up there, right? Does everybody know what Curiosity? And where is it? What is it doing? And where is it? Does anybody know?
Here, we'll go back to Mr. Blaise class. Do you guys know about Curiosity? Anybody know? Dun, 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 dun. All right, tell us about Curiosity then.
So it's actually a rover. It's actually on Mars. It's taking great images of Mars. I actually got an email this weekend about took a great panoramic selfie.
So we'll have to encourage people to go look up
Mars.
Curiosity.
Because we're hoping that Mars is possibly going to be the next planet that we're going to visit, right? Because it's got evidence of water, and we need water to live. But there's always a little issue. So the issue with that is that it's going to take us about 6 months to get there and about 6 months to get back. So a year's time. So we have to make sure that we have a vehicle. We got to make sure that we have people that could want to be in space for a year. We're working on it.
I think we should do a show of hands. What kid would want to go to Mars, spend a year in space? Put up your hand.
Well, even how many? I love it. I love it.
All of us volunteers. Look at that.
Because you guys are about the age. That's great. Perfect.
Yeah, we recruited brilliantly. That was it. I did your mission for you right there. Awesome.
I love this. We can start recruiting now.
All right, let's go to Ms. Goodman's class and see if you guys have a question.
Hi.
Can you hear us?
Yeah. Okay.
My name's Hannah,
Hi,
and
Hannah.
I'm wondering if you could tell us about the Kepler Space Telescope.
Well, that's not really my forte, but I can tell you more about what's the big one. Do you know what the big one that's going to be coming out?
Does anyone know? Let's go back to that class. Okay, so
You know what the big one is that's going to be that we're launching, that we're working on?
Big telescope that they're working on, anyone?
you know? No?
No.
So the big one we're working on, which I can tell you a little bit about, is James Webb. So the James Webb Space Telescope is going to launch, and it's going to be amazing because we have a telescope already up there, Hubble, and Hubble's amazing, right? It's over 25 plus years it's been in space, and it's taken great pictures. It's changed textbooks. But James Webb is going to launch soon, and the thing about James Webb that's going to be cool is it's going to see in the infrared spectrum, so it's going to see even further out. And so at some point, James Webb and Hubble will both be taking pictures simultaneously, and we're going to be able to compare these pictures and see how they differ. So we're quite excited about that. But there is something different. With Hubble, our astronauts could actually go up into space and they could fix it, service it if it had any issues. But with James Webb, it's going to be so far out. It's going to be at the Lagrange point 2, which is 1 million miles away. So we're not going to be able to service that. But it should take amazing pictures in the infrared spectrum.
Excellent. All right.
So
and for
I do know a little about Kepler. So Kepler, it was observatory, right? And it examines like Earth-sized planets. But our big mission here at Goddard that we've been working on, and Goddard is a unique NASA center and that we can do a project from start to finish, is James Webb is our next big one.
Excellent. All right. Also, before we go to the next round of questions, I want to mention 2 things. There are some classes watching online. If you guys want to submit any questions in the YouTube live chat bar, I can pass them on. And also, I love how many girls are asking questions in Women in Science Month. Way to go, ladies.
I love it. Girls in STEM. I love it. I love it. We
All
actually
right.
do a lot supporting that here. We have a workshop that we do in the summer called Sisters, and it's for female rising and 7th, 8th grade girls, and it's taught by all female scientists and engineers.
Outstanding.
So it's amazing. Yep.
All right. Let's go back to Mrs. Murakis' class. If you guys have another question, come on up.
Any other questions from anyone? Anyone?
I have some questions for you guys, though.
Okay.
Okay. So now you guys are located, are you in Ontario proper?
Yep.
Are you
Everyone.
located? Okay, cool. All right. And how big is your school?
800 kids.
Almost 800.
Oh, wow. Okay.
From JK to grade 6.
I'm sorry, what grades?
JK to grade 6.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. That's a big school.
Yeah.
It is
You
a
guys
big
have
school.
snow?
We're busy.
You guys have snow?
So when we have lots of snow and
Lots of
very
it.
cold. When you mentioned communication skills. So what sort of, we do some group work and we do some independent communication. So what in that communication piece in your everyday work, what does that look like often?
Great. Well, it looks like what we're doing right now, right? Talking to a group of students via the web or in person. So you can't really be that shy. And you never know what types of questions you're going to get asked. So you got to be prepared for that. That's one thing. Also, you've got to be able to write. Because a lot of times I'll have to send out emails to people. And so emails are very, very important. Or even writing documents. It's very important. Also, just communication, not even within NASA, but outside of NASA. For example, I meet with the European Space Agency frequently, so we've got to be able to communicate with them. So both oral and written forms of communication are very important.
So a little bit of everything. Do you ever meet with the Canadian Space Agency?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Good to hear.
And JAXA, we meet with them.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let's go back to Eve's class. If you guys have a second.
Hello, Josh, you want to ask a question? Okay, good. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So I was wondering, do you think you can live? We are able to live on Mars someday, or any other planet?
I think so. I think Mars is going to be the next one. We're hoping I guess it's kind of be possibly maybe the moon, right? We went there several years ago. We hope to go back. So maybe the moon and Mars. I think so, because there's evidence of water. Like I said, we can survive. And so I think we can do it. But like I said, the biggest challenge is going to be that we need to get a vehicle that can withstand 6 months of travel. That also means designing a spacesuit. So when you think about that, think about careers. You name the careers, we've got them at NASA. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have scientists, we have engineers. We actually at Goddard, we have this cool job. We have a bunch of professional seamstresses that worked for like Disney, or they made costumes for ice skaters. They actually work in our thermal blanket lab, and they actually make our blankets we wrap our satellites in before we send them in space. Who would ever think about that career? So you name the career we have it. We have professional photographers. I went to go get my passport picture taken last week. So you name the career, we've got it. So yes, to answer your question, I do think that we'll be able to live there.
Cool. For the classes too, worth noting, and you can maybe talk about this in a little bit, Dr. Ferrell. Tomorrow we have this really anticipated launch of the Falcon Heavy. So one of the biggest rockets in many, many, many years going up, which people are very excited about. So if you guys want to check that out tomorrow, you can watch the rocket launch live online. Just a thought for later. But for now, Mr. Atkinson's class, if you guys have another question, come on up.
What is your favorite part about your job?
Great. So my favorite part about my job is that I guess I've had opportunities to do several different things, right? Since I've been at NASA. So another little secret thing, I guess, is that in 2004, they actually had teachers that could apply to be astronauts. And I actually made like the finals for that. I was a lot lighter then, you can tell. I like to eat a lot of food and cook. That's one of my favorite things to do. And so that was kind of cool. So I got to interact with the astronauts. So that's cool. No 2 days are ever the same, like I keep saying. And it's just cool because I think the people are phenomenal here, right? Like you never know who you're going to meet. Last weekend, for example, so this year is kind of cool as far as NASA goes in space and education, because this year we actually have 2 educator astronauts that are in space. So we have Joe Acaba, who's up there now. And then in March, Ricky Arnold, he is going to go up into space. So for a whole year, we'll have teachers up there. They're doing experiments. They're going to be doing web chats with students, things like that. So I'm actually friends with them because I know them all, both of them. But last week, I actually had Ricky's dad come on a tour and his best friend. So who would ever think that, like, right? So it's kind of cool. So he's getting all excited about his son going up into space. And then he actually sent me pictures of Ricky when he was a kid, his Christmas picture. So that's kind of cool. Who would ever think that? So I've got a picture on my computer now of Ricky when he was like 6 or 7 years old, and he was in a spacesuit. So kind of cool. Good question.
Oh, neat. All right, let's go back to Mr. Blaise class.
My question is,
What's your name?
is there any planet other like?
What's your name?
Oh, my name is Latu. My name is Latushin, and my question is if there is any other planet like Earth.
Well, once again, we need to have different things that we know that we can survive, different elements. So we're hoping the closest one that we know of right now is Mars, right? Because that evidence of water, which is important, we need that to survive. So we're still looking. So that's probably going to be the one that we're focusing on at this time.
Yeah. How about, so I mean, it's been interesting. We've had 2 classes now, and it might not be your specific area of expertise, but we've had Kepler asked about and other planets. So I know we're seeking out planets outside of the solar system, maybe not that we live on, but that are like Earth. Have we found anything like that yet?
There probably are. Unfortunately, that's not really my expertise, so I'm going to stay away from that. But there are some. We are looking at other planets. Yeah, there are.
Cool.
But I said the primary focus, like I said, is probably Mars.
Yeah. Just a note too for the classes, alongside NASA astronauts that are going up in November, the first Canadian astronaut since Chris Hadfield is going up. So David St. Jacques. So if you guys are excited about that and Canadian astronauts, make sure to check that out too. For now, let's go back to Mrs. Goodman's class. If you guys have another question.
Oh, that's cool. That's good. Yeah.
It is. We've got so many astronauts. It's great stuff.
I know.
Ms. Goodman's class is third.
Say your name first.
Hi, I'm Elise, and my question is, when were rovers first made?
When were they first made? Good question. So I'm not sure when they were exactly first made, but I know we've been using them a lot for Mars. We had Spirit, Opportunity, and Curiosity. Those are the ones that we've had for Mars that have been taking pictures. And it's kind of cool because we get amazing pictures to our NASA center so we can see what the terrain's like, things like that. And they're usually solar powered a lot of times. And so it's kind of cool sometimes. So we get amazing pictures.
Outstanding. All right, Dr. Ferrell, do you have time for one more round of questions?
I probably have time for like 1 or 2 more questions.
1 or 2 more. Okay, well, then we'll go to the first 2 classes. And Mrs. Murakis, if you guys have a question.
Okay, we have a really interesting one for you, Trena, being a woman in science and exploration. Have you encountered any challenges in breaking into that sort of niche that is becoming a lot more popular, but you're kind of paving the way for the future.
Great question. Great question. So I guess I'll be honest with you guys. I feel like we're all friends now. It was hard for me, honestly, because I thought I got into medical school right away. So that whole thing of trying to tell my family that I didn't want to be an MD was kind of difficult for me. And so then I told my family that I was going to get my PhD in environmental science. And I'll be honest with you, they were like, environmental science, what are you going to do with that? Like, you've got your student loans for medical school. What are you going to do with that degree? And now it's so funny. My mom, she actually apologizes daily because now environmental science is kind of hot, right? And so she was like, wow, you really knew what you were doing. But it has been very challenging because there aren't that many females in environmental science. So I'll go to a lot of meetings sometimes, and I will be sometimes the only female. And then being a woman of color, that's another issue too. There aren't that many minorities in this field too. So yeah, I have faced some challenges. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've had people that said, really, is this really a true form of science? Things like that. So I've had some challenges. But it's okay. We got to keep moving forward and plunging along and let them know that we're here to stay and that we can do this, girls.
I think that's probably the most inspiring message we're going to get. And since you said you had time for one or two more questions, and that's an outstanding end, what I think we'll do is I'll go through what we do at the end of every hangout is I demute every class's mic. So if all the classes can join me saying a big thank you to Dr. Ferrell for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You guys have been amazing. You guys have been amazing. So thanks a lot. Please continue to do the great work that you guys are doing. Please listen to your parents or guardians. You may not think they have your best interests, but they really do. Study hard, get good grades. And then I'm not sure how I can get a listing of all the schools.
I'll send it to you the moment we're done.
If I can send you something, I'll send all the schools something and how many students are in each class. Cool. I'll try to send you guys something small from NASA. How's that sound?
Sounds outstanding.
If I get the information, I'll put it in the mail this week.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. That's wonderful.
No, you guys, this has been amazing. I'm glad I could start this off. I'm sorry for our technical issues, but I'm glad it worked out. This is amazing. So I wish you guys the best. And you can share my email. If you guys have any questions, I can try to answer them via email.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for kicking off our amazing month of women in science. And what a great hangout, guys. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great